the federal rules on liens and levies right out of their own Internal Revenue program. Basically, there's a bunch of liens and levies. There's what they usually do, and what happens is they send you these notices, okay? And if you look in the upper left-hand corner of the notice, it'll say 668 capital A parens, capital or small c parens, which is nothing but a notice of intent to lien levy, okay? And right on the top of the page, it'll say notice of intent or notice of levy, okay? Well, that's not really a levy within the meaning of the Internal Revenue Code. A real levy form actually will say in the upper left-hand corner, the number will be 668 in a parentheses small b, okay? That's the only lien levy form that is the real one for the Internal Revenue Service. Now, that form disappeared a while back because it had the famous paragraph A on it. And the famous paragraph A under section 6331A of Title 26 of the Internal Revenue Code gave the authority and jurisdiction of the Secretary of Treasury to lien and levy people's property. And of course it said if you were if you were a corporation, an officer of a corporation, or an officer of government residing in the District of Columbia, then they had authority to lien and or levy your property if they gave you proper notice within 10 days and you ignored it. And if they found that you were just ignoring it out of adverse ridiculousness, they didn't have to give you any notice. They could come lien your property right away, okay? Well, that paragraph eventually got removed because we took that and turned it around on them and says we're not corporations, officers of corporations, or officers of government residing in the District of Columbia. I don't reside in the District of Columbia. I reside in Cleveland, Ohio, or Toledo, or Detroit, Michigan. And see, I'm not in any way a party to this. Then if you go and turn to Title 27, where clearly they are using Title 27 under alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to justify their use of Title 26, because Title 26 was never enacted into law. And a lot of people find that ridiculous. Oh, there's 42 volumes of law there. There's got to be enacted. No, it doesn't have to be enacted. As a matter of fact, it was deliberately not enacted so that they could keep the 1939 Corporation Tax Act still functioning and enforced, because that's where their collection authority was in the 1939 War Powers Tax Act, okay? So one congressman brightly stood up one day and said, right before 1954, when they started to pass into law Title 26, he says, if we enact this, within one day, the 1939 Corporation Tax Act, all of a sudden it's repealed. That means we got no power to collect nothing. We can't enact this. It says right in their implementing regulation that within one day of the implementation of this Title 26, the 1939 War Powers Tax Act would be repealed. So that would lose all our power to collect anyway, even though we went through all the work and did all the paperwork. We couldn't collect because we don't have the rules because they got repealed. So another bright congressman stood up and said, well, we'll just fix that. We just won't put the implementing regulation date in there. Now, that is recorded, for those of you who want to know, at Title 26, United States Code, Section 7851. Just look up that section, that's 7851, and read about 10 pages in there, and then your jaw is going to be on the ground. You're going to go, they couldn't do that. That would be ridiculous. That would mean that the entire Title 26 was never enacted into law. Bingo. Go to the head of your class. You figured it out. Now you go down to that U.S. attorney down there, and almost within seconds he will go, this meeting is canceled. Get the marshals. Remove this gentleman from the building. Because that actually happened to me. And I told this guy, you must have a very excellent attorney. And he goes, well, why do you say that? I said, well, the Honorable Horace R. Gilmore, rather large, round face, never smiles, has absolutely no sense of humor. Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court ordered me to be here this morning to talk to you and have this meeting, and I'm here. And now I'm going to have to go back and tell him that you told him to screw off and die. You weren't going to hold the meeting. You must have a very excellent attorney. And he goes, well, no, let's not be hasty here. And then he ordered his marshals to stop, and then we sat and had the meeting, and they haven't bothered my guys since. And I basically told them, you people don't have a clue. The reality is you don't have any implementing regulation date on your entire Title 26. It's all made-up stuff. I know, Irwin, I apologize to you, buddy, and I know you studied that thing till you could dot every I and cross every T, but I'm telling you the entire thing never was enacted into law, ever. So it's all nothing but what they call
gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook or
pretend.
Pretend. It's all